Hi, into Red Room. It's me again. You were not looking for me, Lionel Richie. No. Neither was Adele looking for me, but somehow. Oh goodness. Okay, so this is actually like a genuine vulnerable topic. Anyway, so I went out to the mall today, and this happens when I go out. Generally, I don't know if I don't look approachable or what. I do have resting bitch face, I will admit. But anyway, it goes back to a core wound. So I'm a Leo moon, square Venus in Taurus, square Pluto in Scorpio, Venus, Pluto opposed, Chiron and Leo, if you want to know me. So Uranus is transiting through Taurus, which is where my Venus is, my natal Venus, right? And I've come up against these ideas of like beauty. Now, if you don't know me, I actually like beauty. I actually like skincare a lot. And I used to be, I'm less so now, but I used to stock up. I used to read a lot of magazines regarding beauty. Elle magazine. I didn't really like the Vogues and stuff like that. Like, they were nice. I really like Marie Claire, Nylon, and then Teen Vogue. I really liked those. Those are my three. And then I liked interior decorating magazines, stuff like that. But Nylon, Teen Vogue, Marie Claire, I like those three. Look at this. Look at this crooked ass finger. I need to do like a video on like what I like about myself, and it'll be, this finger will be in there. But I grew up liking beauty and stuff like that. Now, wasn't really allowed to have a lot of beauty products. I guess maybe at some point when I became a teenager in my later teen years, I guess people felt more comfortable. Like, I wasn't wearing mascara, I didn't really wear eyeliner, I didn't wear lipstick, I didn't wear lip gloss. I was like pretty bare-faced essentially throughout my like childhood, tween years, right? Like, I didn't really wear all that stuff. But I was an observer of makeup and beauty, and I liked skincare, and it became a core wound of mine because I think teenage girls especially want to fit in, and they want to feel beautiful, and they want to be admired. And I think that's a video that I should do as an adult woman, dressing and looking good for yourself, but also wanting to be admired. I think that's something that a lot of women kind of get bashed for, or kind of get, I guess if you're a feminist, feminism thrown in your face, like you crave the attention of men. But I think you want to be admired. Like, I feel like it's a human thing to want to be admired, looked at, seen as socially beautiful. I just feel like we have those desires, and like, why try to make it seem like we don't? Because even as adults, like, I'm a millennial and I'm about to be 30, like, there's people my age that still crave the acceptance in a very unhealthy way, to the point that it's like anxiety inducing, stuff like that. And a lot of this goes back to like teenage years, when you start to like physically develop and shift and change, and you start to notice kind of how cliques form. You kind of start to get the reality of diversity in terms of like diversity of thought, people thinking differently than you, actually having real conflict with it, right? Whether it be outright bullying, you have to fight people, cyberbullying, shit like that. You start to push up against those ideas. My teen years were pretty okay for the most part. Like, I didn't really do a lot at school. I had my own activities outside of that. But I still felt like teen angst about beauty and looking good and stuff like that. And it didn't help that I was like on the bigger side. And so, of course, whenever someone gets mad at you, they always throw your weight, in your face, which is to be expected. That people do that now. They throw weight in people's face. They throw people's hair. Like I've had people talk about my hair. I've had people talk about my weight. I've had people talk about that stuff. And growing up, that was like really hard to deal with. It was a huge insecurity of mine, and at some point, I think I just gave up trying to look, even for myself, like a certain way. And I also don't think I was at the point yet to dress for myself. I was still very much under the thumb of my grandmother, who like dressed me basically until I was an adult. So kind of rebelling against her preferences was like really hard. So as I became an adult, I became very fixed and steadfast in my own opinions to like dress myself, because it was a very protective thing that I hadn't really had access to growing up. And so yeah, like I protected it, and me giving up in a sense kind of shielded me from further criticism when it came to my looks, right? Like I didn't try, I didn't put any effort in, I didn't do anything because I just didn't feel good about myself. And yeah, like I just essentially had given up. The spark had gone out of my life. As I've done a lot more healing work, I've become a lot more comfortable with myself and my skin. And one of the things with my Pluto, Venus kind of thing, and even square my moon, is being very open and raw and vulnerable in a beauty that perhaps is not conventional, but it's beauty nonetheless. And I think beauty comes in many different forms. Now, today and most days, because of how I look, I kind of get stared at a little bit. It's not that I'm overly tall or anything like that, but what I notice is about particularly women, when you don't have a conventional femininity, I was going to say femininity brand, like this is a cosmetics brand, but when you don't have traditional socially not socially constructed, but socially accepted, perhaps, well, constructed, I guess, feminine beauty, feminine appeal, I kind of feel that sometimes I feel like it's discussed. Sometimes I feel like it's questioning whether or not I'm a woman, or sometimes it's leaning into that. And I've heard someone whisper, what are they, what is that? I've heard that, and yeah, and it doesn't help that I don't wear dresses like that. But what I'm saying is that core wounding, is kind of coming to the surface for me. So I'm getting back into skincare. I'm getting back into, well, not necessarily makeup, but I'm getting back into learning about skincare, being interested in skincare. When everything goes out, I'll tell you my future plans. And I just kind of feel like I'm in this space where I just want to shed all of that old stuff. And I think the Saturn return is helping me to shed a lot of old identities about myself and how I saw myself, and to shed the need to care so much what other people think. But I will say that it has been a really hurtful journey to be someone who doesn't want to be overly feminine and presentation, societally feminine. Doesn't really want to be that, because that's not my full aesthetic. Like, I like dresses, I like stuff like that, but I also just like jeans and like a t-shirt. And it's kind of sad that you have to have these sort of talks, there's these kind of videos, but I think there's a group of women who would understand what I'm talking about. Growing up, perhaps they weren't conventionally seen as beautiful. They weren't seen as beautiful, or they were kind of an other in the beauty category, and it's worn on their self-esteem and on their psyche and on how they've treated themselves and how they then look at other people. So one of the things is kind of like you can start being resentful of societally, socially acceptably beautiful people, and kind of make up these stories about what they are like. And I think that beauty is kind of associated with either overly niceness, naivete, innocence, or like just straight cattiness and bitchiness. And a lot of people who are socially deemed as beautiful they can get polarized into those spaces, and people who are considered unconventionally beautiful or not beautiful, or just, I guess, straight ugly, unattractive, they kind of get relegated to the innocent role, perhaps out of pity. But they are not necessarily given the privilege, or I guess the benefit of the doubt, when it comes to their emotional security, insecurities, their emotional well-being and state of being. They're kind of ignored. I've definitely had people treat me a certain way because of how I looked, and it wasn't just size, it was how I physically looked. Like going to college, being on campus, right? Because I lived on campus all 4 years. Why? I don't know. I didn't drive. That's probably why. So I need to stay on campus. But, walking on campus and being, around party promoters and stuff like that. And, you would be walking and they would hand it out to all these girls and stuff like that. And then they would get to you and, like, say 60 days of prayer. That's what I need. Say they're handing it out to everybody else and they get to you and they physically block themselves from, like, handing it to you. They physically block themselves. And that emotion of being rejected really is coming up now. So I don't know, I'm gonna cry about that later or what, but those events stick with you. They stick with you a lot. Those events of being rejected in that way stick with you. And over the years, I did become bitter about that. And then make the stories up about, like, the people who are socially beautiful and stuff like that. Now, some of them have turned out to be very vapid and bitchy. Well, people, especially when you go to social media, a lot of people on social media are vapid and just empty, and they're just, like, you can look at what they post and you're just like, either this is not you and you just are putting this up here, or this is really who you are and you kind of look, you're a monster. But we all have these, like, ugly sides to ourselves, and I think being in this space kind of really shows me what people think. But I was just processing that today because once I start getting into fashion and dressing how I want and stuff like that, getting the budget to dress how I want, the budget, that's what's important. The budget, that's what I'm looking for. But getting into that space, right, I think it's just really important. Like, I think it's really important to reconcile that kind of stuff with you, because I don't want to go into my 30s with, like, baggage from, like, not feeling pretty enough from, like, 15 fucking years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, certain baggage, it really does inform your decisions going forward, like certain relationships falling away, certain lessons you have to learn. But I don't want that to be something that informs me, right? And so I've had people, treat me not so nice because of how I looked. And it was definitely based on an attractive factor that they had going on. You know, people walking by, refusing to, you know, hold the door. Like, I'm right there. You clearly see I'm like right behind you, and you just, you know, and I don't expect to be treated well, as in like you have to hold open doors and stuff like that. But sometimes it should be seeming deliberate. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes. So yeah, I've been like just reflecting on that because I really am getting into skincare and stuff like that, and I want to kind of in that space buck ideas about beauty, but I don't feel like it's the way that people buck the trends about beauty. Like, to me, it's not about diversity as far as like darker skin or a gap or freckles or like green hair and purple eyebrows. And I kind of think we kind of just, I don't know what we're doing with the beauty thing, but I think people's experiences really should be highlighted, and that's mine. So that is what I gotta say. Not fitting the conventional beauty mold has been kind of interesting. It has made me very observant of how people are treated when it comes to looks. Now, I have my own biases and my own prejudices, so the irony, right? But it definitely has worn on me, and I'm ready to just shed that old shit and move forward because I deserve to live a life that is beautiful. And the funny thing about me is that I really like beautiful things. Like, there's some things that people will consider odd, like the things I consider odd, but I find them to be very, very beautiful. And yeah, like very beautiful and like interesting. One of those things is really fat flies. I really like, I don't know, there's something about really fat flies that I find the cutest little thing, especially when they start to do the little thing with their front like legs or whatever. I don't know, I find that to be really cute. People are like, you're the strangest being. But yeah, like I find, and I know it's the most disgusting thing when you see flies microscopically and you know that they just like they like lay their eggs on this random shit. I know this. But it's just something about really fat flies. That I'm like, you got my heart. And so, yeah. Yeah. And so, I guess I can laugh about the stuff that I find beautiful, and hopefully be kinder to it, I guess. But that's what I'm reflecting on. Non-conventional beauty, sitting outside of the beauty space, and now finally integrating the lessons and realizing I don't have to placate anyone by dressing down, and then also realizing that people don't give a shit anyway. You know, people really don't care as much. Like, the wider society doesn't even know who I am, right? Like, there's very few people who know who I am on a personal level. And just like out in the world, like very few people come up to me and be like, oh my god, I know you, or I remember you. Like, very few people. But you know, you do get treated a certain way by people, and I'm kind of overcoming what that struggle has been and what those unkind words have been to me. So thanks for watching my like ramble. Thanks. Bye.